got this speculative market of cryptocurrencies that everyone sees, and you've got the underlying use cases of, I mentioned all the different blockchains. That is literally no different to, and I always say this to people because they're like, oh, it's just a speculative market, but it's literally no different to the tech market that we know through the stock market, right? You are literally able to go and trade all these different companies, like day trade the lights out of these, mad leverage, go do all that. Yeah. And then the companies are still doing something, right?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Sean. Welcome to another episode of Crypto Weekly.
Good morning, Bobby. Yeah, thank you very much for having me back. Looking forward to it.
So I wanted to touch on a very cool subject, and I'll be honest with you, as actually while I was rehashing last week's episode, you touched on a very big concept that I think that we should touch on, which is, or maybe dive into a bit more, which is adoption. So last week, kind of the conversation was about what's driving markets. Is it inflation? Is it the metaverse? What is it? And you touched on a subject that maybe we didn't dive into too much, which is adoption. So that, and obviously when you talk about adoption, the news and some news this week with Bitcoin City. So I don't know if you want to start on the adoption topic and just kind of say, in terms of driving the markets and where we are seeing things, what's your view on how people are adopting Bitcoin and why that is such a big thing to be paying attention to?
Yeah, this is a divisive subject. Pretty much everything in crypto is a divisive subject, right? But the adoption discussion is a big thing, right? Because I'm going to use the analogy of the internet. I know a lot of people don't like saying, hey, listen, you can't just compare this to this other big technological boom, but it is pretty much the only other thing that we can look at. And if you look at sort of the early days of most of the tech behemoths, I mean, the networks that they were trying to build or the platforms that they were trying to build didn't have the adoption or anywhere near the adoption that we have today. And people were wildly speculating on these things businesses becoming far more valuable. And it played out for a lot of those. Obviously, there was a lot of failures and some big winners, but that was the narrative. And that's how sort of investment goes into any industry. And I think the same thing's playing out in crypto. The difference, though, is that crypto has the speculative element to it. So it's so weird. It's like you've got this market that's emerged where you've got just outright speculation, derivative exchanges, trading with loads of leverage, sort of this get rich quick mindset that exists around this market. And that then is sort of what 99% of people are seeing. And then there's this other market, which is, oh my gosh, we are essentially building this blockchain. I always call it like sort of a blockchain superhighway, or this new platform that is very similar in many respects, or it certainly utilizes the internet, but very similar in nature to the internet and the impact that could have on society. And then there's these different applications being built on top of these blockchains, and there's different sort of levels and layers in this new blockchain architecture. And there is adoption growing there, right? The number of applications that are being deployed onto the likes of Ethereum, onto Solana, onto the likes of Polkadot is huge. You've got Bitcoin side chains, which you spoke about. I'm not going to go into jargon, but there is also developments occurring on the Bitcoin network, constant upgrades. I mean, you had the Taproot upgrade that happened this last week as well. So there's so much fundamental work being done here, but I think it's being sort of outweighed by the trading and speculative nature of this other market. So I think that's just sort of where we are at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that's mainly the narrative. People are kind of seeing as Bitcoin as this way or this place where they can make quick gains. But then they also, if they're not paying attention or they don't understand the market, the volatility of it all, they lose those gains. And then they think that it's this, rubbish investment and you can just lose your money. But if you don't understand the fundamentals of the adoption that's happening around the world, and that's why I like the graph of the market cap, because it just shows you how it's growing when you zoom out. But yeah, I saw about the Taproot upgrade. Maybe you just want to touch on that, because apparently it's going to sort of open the door to an Ethereum type capability. Do you just want to touch on that?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into too much detail on Taproot because it is very technical. But if you're looking at sort of where Bitcoin is going, it is sort of working towards being more efficient, i.e. more transactions per second. We all know that that's the sort of longer term game here. You would be in a position then where you would be able to run mini smart applications. So, mini, very similar to Ethereum in many respects, but maybe not of the same sort of scale, whereby you could then utilize the Bitcoin blockchain more efficiently over time. Because what Bitcoin wins at when you compare it to every other network is decentralization and how robust the network is. Like Bitcoin has never been hacked. There's never been, you know, with Ethereum, you had Ethereum Classic and, you know, Ethereum that emerged because of the DAO hack that happened many years ago. Bitcoin doesn't have that sort of a background, right? Sure, you had the Bitcoin Cash hard fork and that broke into Bitcoin Cash ABC and SV, and you've had all of that happen, but that core Bitcoin blockchain has been around literally since the dawn of cryptocurrencies. So it has sort of has that credibility and that track record, which is really interesting.
Yeah. So let's dive into El Salvador, that just don't want to stay out of the news, but for all the right reasons. And Bitcoin City at the foot of a volcano, so they can mine Bitcoin using clean energy. Do you just want to tell us your thoughts on what's happening there?
Oof. I mean, Nayib Bukele, I mean, he's the president of El Salvador. And I mean, sort of launching Bitcoin City around a volcano, creating a circular city, because a circle is what Bitcoin's coin-like structure looks like. It's insane, right? And remember, I dismissed, and I must actually eat my words here, I dismissed volcanic mining. I literally was like, this is a joke. Like somebody's like, I don't know, smoked something and then decided to write about this. But it's happening. I mean, that is happening. So long story short, El Salvador has gone out and they've structured essentially the first Bitcoin bond. So they are raising funding in Bitcoin to be able to fund the city and building this, it's like a reactor type mining rig that's going to be working with Volcano. Then the city itself is going to essentially be a tax haven where you'll only have a 5% sales tax or value added tax on items sold, but no income tax, no business tax, no marginal tax, go through sort of all the beauty that goes around that. Which will naturally attract a lot of, you know, potentially wealthy individuals, also a lot of other Bitcoiners, right? So maybe this becomes like the Bitcoin Mecca or crypto Mecca of the world, which will be, you know, super interesting to see. But the idea really is that this becomes a self-sustaining city in the fact that it'll be mining Bitcoin using this volcano and then selling that Bitcoin to the market and being able to fund the infrastructure and stuff, which does sound completely ridiculous. But in some respects, I mean, that's the way that the UAE works, right? The UAE initially was reliant on oil. Then they sort of moved in and said, okay, right, tourism needs to be the next big thing. And they've built this super city all around tourism, being like geolocated where they are. They now are self-sufficient, not needing to take in taxes because of how efficient they've built these different businesses. And I think this has the potential, albeit not like, you know, huge, not high probability like potential, but the probability to do something similar.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Hey, wow. But you're right. I like that comparison. I mean, Bitcoin is an asset, and so is oil, right? You can look at it as a commodity. And cities, countries were built off that. So it's the same concept. We're just using a digital version of it. And something that like I've been paying attention to in the last couple of days is how they're associating what Bukele is doing in El Salvador, creating the blueprint for what Michael Saylor did in the company space, where he started putting Bitcoin on the balance sheets. And he was the guinea pig, and then he got other companies to start doing it. It's almost like Bukele is not doing it in El Salvador from a nation state, sovereign state point of view and say, okay, cool, this is the blueprint. These are the kind of things that you can do. And it's going to be interesting to see how much of that actually trickles down to other countries in South America where, currency, there's a lot of currency issues. Venezuela is just around the corner, right?
It'll be super interesting. Look, if this mining rig that they set up turns out to be this super mining rig. Now, I don't know if it will. I'm not really the mining professional here. I mean, I've done a little bit of mining back in the day, but really not that much. But if it does land up doing this and the price of Bitcoin continues to grow the way that it's grown, I mean, you could have probably one of the best economic decisions ever being made at this point in time. Yeah. So, I mean, it's literally just more of an investment punt than anything else. But hey, we'll see where this goes. I mean, the city will end up being built. I think it's just, it's not going to be this linear growth or this exponential growth. It's probably going to be up and down. And you'll probably hear the good, the bad, and the ugly and everything in between on this. I think just jumping back to, the prior discussion that we were having as well, something that I think is interesting to note, which is somewhat related to this, is you've got this speculative market of cryptocurrencies that everyone sees. And you've got the underlying use cases of, I mentioned all the different blockchains. That is literally no different to, and I always say this to people because they're like, oh, it's just a speculative market, but it's literally no different to the tech market that we know through the stock market, right? You are literally able to go and trade all these different companies, like day trade the lights out of these, mad leverage, go do all that. And then the companies are still doing something, right? So I don't think it's not bad that that's how it exists, right? The financial markets allocate capital, and there's speculators, there's hedgers, there's all these different market participants there, and then the actual companies or protocols, in the sense, they need to be doing their thing. So it is very healthy to sort of have the two markets sitting in parallel.
It's interesting. Yeah, very true. Yeah. So what I also wanted to, Karen, just going back to the adopt, like this thing, and I wanted to compare it also to how I think it's the Miami mayor who has been pro Bitcoin, and I think Wyoming and Texas as well, something like that, where they're actually being very pro Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And was it last year or this year where we saw that huge like flood of people that moved to Miami because they were Bitcoiners and they were happy with the way their approach was. So it's going to be, again, that talks to the adoption, right? I mean, you could pay your taxes in Bitcoin. Now you're saying, cool, here's a country that's doing it. So, and people are flooding there. Like there was a definite uptick in people moving to Miami. It was like a trend that literally happened. Moving out of New York and go down to Miami. So, move out of Brazil, go to El Salvador.
Yeah, gosh, I guess that could happen, right? At the end of the day, if you want to stimulate any sort of industry or the growth of any industry, lower the taxes in that particular area or create subsidies. I mean, lowering taxes is always a little bit more tricky, but if you put subsidies in place, you just fuel an industry. Not a lot of people know this, but in the United Kingdom, you're able to, as a startup, claim back research and development from the government. Nice. So if you hire, let's say, a development team or a product owner or whoever it may be, and you set up a company, you can claim back, if they are employed by you, 50% of their total cost to company. That's insane, right? That's incredible. But it has stimulated awesome. The startup ecosystem in the UK that is then just sort of becoming now self-fulfilling, where it brings other startup founders there, and it's that network effect which becomes really powerful. And if you then think 5 or 10 years out, that small, relatively small investment from the government, hopefully you'll be paying dividends literally from the different companies that have emerged there and the IP that sits there.
100%. And I do feel that South Africa and Cape Town has that potential. We're full of tech startups, and if we had the regulation, now that's a subject we can talk about again sometime. We haven't actually had that conversation in a while, but very, very important topic to actually talk about. But to finish off, Sean, it's Black Friday. I'm pretty sure Revix has got something going on. What's up your sleeve this Black Friday?
Yes. So depending on when you listen to this, you may get two different sorts of promotions. So right now you can go to our platform, and absolutely every single cryptocurrency / crypto product that we offer, like our crypto bundles, are completely fee free. You can buy into them and pay no fee. So you can invest literally 150 Rand, pay zero on that, or alternatively invest 1.5 million Rand and pay zero on that. So the goal here with us is really to get people into the space, because most of our customers are sort of newbies to the crypto space. Maybe they've bought Bitcoin or Ethereum and they just want to have sort of a bit more secure and sort of diversified offering on our platform. So that's the one product, or the one offering, should I say. Then in addition to that, for Black Friday, we'll be having quite a remarkable top-up offering. So this hasn't been yet announced. So, watch this space. Please come on if you are listening to this over sort of this Black Friday to Cyber Monday weekend. But if you make a deposit with us, we'll be matching that deposit, which will be a very expensive exercise. I spoke with the accounting partner yesterday, and there's like a tear running down both of our cheeks, being like, well, marketing team, this is what you guys have done. And they're like, we're going to get people investing. And I'm like, yeah, you're giving away tons of money. So that's going to be exciting. I just want to see what the response will be like for that.
Okay, cool. So is that on the Friday itself?
That'll be on the Friday itself and running over to Saturday as well.
Tell your investors, I'm sorry, I'm going to be, spreading the word.
Well, we'll be giving them money to someone, right? It's either to a marketing, not necessarily our marketing team, but some other external marketing department, or we're going to be giving it to our customers. So in this case, we're going to be giving it to the customers.
There we go. I love it. Cool. Well, Sean, good luck with that. And thanks for joining us another week. A lot of information again, and we'll see you next week.
Brilliant, Bobby. Thanks so much. Have a good one.
You too.